When it comes to Wein and his tactical genius plans, it is always a mixture of both the luckiest man alive in terms of just so happen moving in the right moment, not getting a spear through the eye, but him recognizing he can't do that a second time, to the careful cunning of a joint military exercise that you can know there's a 50-50 chance that this grieving father is either A, going to go with the initial plan A, but you have to have a plan B, and plan B having the different sections of the military there, so basically you can retreat and his 100 soldiers or so are going to be locked in between so many different forces that he's supposed to be allied with and it looks to be maybe trying to overthrow. It is incredible to see that type of character because it kind of gives me that Kogias, that Death Note formula where you have this tactical genius character doing things you can't initially comprehend, but when you see their plans come into execution, it's like, hot damn, this is the coolest character I'm watching right now. I absolutely love how they're not beating around the bush. They're constantly doing things, but it kind of does feel like they're really human at the end of the day. When you look at the trio, Loa, Nim, and Wayne's relationship, right? There is, of course, an essential love triangle there, right? Both of them are romantically interested in Wayne. And we know where Wayne's romantic feelings lie, and that is on Nim's side. But due to discrimination, due to his higher noble status, he's unable to follow his heart, so it would most likely be natural for him to go to Loa, someone who very well could be queen of the empire. And the fact that we're not going the route of making her envy or jealous, like pretty much from day one, Nim has very much encouraged those two to get together because she knows how he feels about her. But with the way the world is, she understands that he needs to be with someone more on his own stature. And the fact that she's not mad about that is just refreshing given the environment and what we're typically used to seeing. But the fact that Loa of all characters comes out pretty much immediately accepting that, like, as much as the proposed marriage would have been nice for her own feelings, she understands that, like, she's not really worthy to be next to that type of connection just yet, but maybe someday she will be. But the fact that there isn't this feud, the fact that we're not throwing chairs and breaking things because we're mad that the boy we like can't be with me, the fact that they just so get each other, we're establishing that they were best friends in this school academy, right? And the fact of the matter is, the way they interact in present day, even after all the years of not seeing each other, it feels like friends who understand what the other feels, and they're not going to push them to do anything they really don't like. The most pushing we had was on Loa pushing Wayne to basically help and scheme a mission. But as we also know, that he promised that if you ever force his hand, he will use his skills to make your life easier. And as we see when the episode wraps up, he easily could have assassinated, he easily could have tortured the poor grieving father. Instead, he broke him so that she could now use him to the best of her ability. Really, really cool stuff to see how this show constantly is keeping tactics and intelligence its strongest weapon, and swords and armies are kind of like the afterthought, the thing that is there sometimes. But it's so great to see how Wayne is just such a brilliantly written character, because when you really look at his plan, it makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? The way he shakes down people, the way he gets in their mind. Internally, he's shitting his pants more often than not, but he has the best poker face in town. And if that doesn't work out, he usually has a plan B and maybe even a plan C to hopefully get him out of the predicament that he's in. But he's not perfect. He is without a doubt a very lucky character. I think anyone who says he's just a genius who never makes any mistakes is kidding themselves, because in his own mind, he's constantly freaking out saying please work, because he himself isn't even confident that it's necessarily going to work out. And sometimes he survives a death blow just because he's a lucky bastard, and in his own mind, he says he's a lucky bastard. But I think that's what makes him a lot more easy to root for, because he isn't perfect. Even though he has essentially won every episode in some way, even if sometimes the victories are the victories he didn't want, ultimately we get this sense of self-doubt. We get the sense that he knows he can fail at a moment's notice. We know that even though he's the main character and he has these genius plans, there is other genius characters or powerful characters in the show. And the fact that we're not just going the route of making him feel like I'm confident that I'm always going to win, but have him say, I don't think I'm going to win and I really hope I'm going to win, it keeps him more humble and less arrogant and less of a prick than these types of characters can generally turn out to be. And I absolutely love just seeing the escalation of this episode, because I really wasn't sure what plan B would be. you always know he has a plan B, but the idea that pretty much immediately calls out the assassination attempt and he ends up cutting off an arm. This man is brutal. He goes from killing people who pisses him off to just like removing probably his swinging arm. But the idea that when they're coming after him, his plan B is a tactical retreat. I thought that was just like a joke at first. Like I was like, okay, there's no way he's gonna retreat. He has to have an actual plan B. So it was very satisfying to see like when ultimately, because leading them to your army, normally your army would be the smaller force in comparison to his. But if you piss him off enough and basically look like you're just running and trying to get at a dodge, he's only going to bring as much as he can to catch up to you. And the fact that your smaller army can outpower his in that tactical way while also not actually wanting to fight in the process, just wanting to prove about this whole like joint military exercise, it's pretty damn fantastic. Like this show has no right to be as good as it is. Like really, like everything about it just feels like it's pretty damn confident in what it wants to be. And I love how the most exciting things about this show are never characters swinging a sword. It's never the large-scale army battles where they're trying to like break down the front gate or anything. The most entertaining, the most exciting points of this episode is what this man's actually thinking and when they reveal his plan and it kind of all comes full circle and you reflect, and if you rewatch the episode immediately, you just see the breadcrumbs a little more clear, and I really appreciate that because these types of characters, they're pretty far and in between the last one. They do pop up in anime a fair amount, those very calculated, those very manipulative, but there's something about Wein that just, he feels fresh while still staying true to that type of character design that I've come to love in this anime medium. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where his character is gonna go from here because seemingly, you know, he's got out of a pretty sticky predicament. But as we know, pretty much since the beginning of the show, he finds ways to get himself, you know, he's trying to be the lazy prince, just wants to get rid of the kingdom, sell it off, you know, have a leisurely life. But that ain't how the cards are ever going to play. Otherwise, we'd have a very short story. And we know the story is far from over, even just in the anime, you know, the source material as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what type of shenanigans he's going to get roped into. Next time we'll see Loa as an example would be another fun thing because she definitely has a lot of things stacked in her favor right now, and love how he's not an arrogant bastard. He does generally care about his friends, but he also cares about his lazy lifestyle, and the fact that he honors his promises even years later, when most people would say, you know, that was just stupid childhood friend bullshit, I don't need to follow that, I got my own problems to deal with. He just feels relatable to like a root for in terms of like that empathy, but he's not relatable in the strategic badassery that goes on in his mind, and that's what makes him such a fun anime character. Of course, as always, I'd love to know your own thoughts and feelings, because this is a really interesting concept, because when you really look at it from the father's perspective, nothing what he's doing or saying is all that wrong, right? I mean, when you take into consideration the time period, when you take into consideration of grieving for your son, everything that he did made logical sense from his point of view and wanting more power and things like that. But when you see it from our characters' perspectives and how Wein just makes him cower, it's a completely different perspective, which I love. But thoughts and feelings, theories, if you have any on where you think the story might go from here, leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.